Hi everyone, Highlander here. Today we are doing the first ever market watch video. We're going to be talking about what's happened in the Diablo III gold auction houses and real money auction houses for a few core items that I think are worth tracking and easy enough to track. We'll be talking about what's happened, what the movement is, the movement has been, and if I've got anything I think is worth saying, I will say it. So, without further ado, please excuse my noobliness. I am not an actual weathercaster in my spare time, so I'm not very good at pointing at things that are here, and this is the first, so I'm going to be a bit rough, but let's get to it. And this graph here, we don't actually have too much to represent on the chart in terms of subtle essences and iridescent tears, but we're going to do what we can. So we're looking at the Inferno difficulty crafting materials here, and it's worth noting that subtle essences have dropped about 26% since the last week. That's a drop from 1,000 gold to about 740 odd gold. Iridescent teas have actually gone up in price, and that's breaking the trend a bit there. That's gone up from 61 gold to 87 gold, so that's an increase of 42%, which is really quite large. Really don't know what's driving that iridescent tier prices. Now you can see up the top the big stats that are really worth noting are the fiery brimstone prices, and you can see that the lighter color there, that's the fiery brimstone price in gold. That's 135,000 for a single item or a single fiery brimstone, and that's still a drop from the week before of 8%. But that's a huge drop when you consider where fiery brimstones were about a month ago, which is about 220,000 gold, and that really looks to me like a lot of that speculation is coming right out of the market there. Fiery brimstones in terms of US dollars is that darker orange line, and it's trading at 27 cents per fiery brimstone at the moment. So that's still a big change from the week before, and you can see that it seemed to spike in contrast to the gold price for a little bit there, which I don't have an explanation for, but looks like the market corrected itself fairly quickly. Now, if you were buying fiery brimstones with your real money and then selling them on the gold auction house, after your 15% fee, you'd be getting your gold. Every million gold would cost you about $2.35, which is a little bit cheaper than if you were buying that normally, if you were just buying gold itself by the million. Now, in terms of secrets, we don't track that in terms of US dollar prices because it doesn't actually trade in terms of US dollars. No one actually buys any because they just aren't worth enough. Now that has dropped 16% from the week before. That's a drop down from 948 gold to 795 gold. Gems are a little bit more complicated to try and track. Down the bottom, what appears to be a totally meaningless statistic is the average price of a flawless square, and in terms of gold, that's dropped a whopping amount actually. That's dropped 73%, down from 788 gold down to 208 gold. Most of that price drop is really just driven by flawless square emeralds, which really kind of dominate that little mini index. The price of a flawless square emerald has dropped from 2,400 down to about 600 there, and the other ones are really kind of trading at relatively meaningless levels at about 1/10 of what an emerald costs, which is interesting because we don't actually see that sort of trend happen in terms of the contrast in values at the radiant star level. At the radiant star level, you can see that's up here. In terms of the red line, that actually represents the gold price, and the average price there has actually appreciated by 12% in the last week. So that's a rise from about 17 million for a radiant star up to about 19.5 million. That's pretty much even across the board. Mainly, the biggest increase has actually been in terms of rubies, radiant star rubies, which has dwarfed most of the others there, and radiant star emeralds actually barely moved in price, so it really was the ruby driving that. Go figure. Now we also have the radiant star prices in terms of gold, and that's represented by that green line up there, and that's actually dropped in price in contrast. So that's dropped 23.75%, and that's gone down from 46 US dollars down to 35 US dollars. Now, an interesting stat again, just in terms of that dollars per million gold. If you were to buy radiant stars on the real money auction house and then try to sell them to get your gold that way rather than buying gold direct, then your gold would cost $2.12 per million at the moment. And that's changed quite a bit, because it used to be $3.11 per million just a little while ago. So I see a lot of that being driven by the market correcting itself in terms of becoming even with that gold trading price that you can now do so easily on the gold auction house. And in terms of items, we are tracking 1100 DPS one-handed weapons and 1400 DPS two-handed weapons. So the 1100 DPS one-hand, in terms of gold, you can see that in the orange line, the bright orange line up there, that's dropped about 9.8%, and that's down to 4 mil, just over 4 mil for one. And I'm taking the average of the lowest 4 items that you can, the buyout price of the lowest 4 items that you can obtain, and I'm just cutting off the actual very cheapest one and excluding that, considering that an anomaly. So the actual value would probably be a little bit lower, because that would be where things are actually trading at, and they don't actually appear for me to see. So keep that in mind when you're taking all of this into account. Now, for those 1100 DPS one-handed weapons, in terms of real money, they've depreciated a bit more. They've depreciated 16.5%, and that's a drop down from just under $12 to just under $10 now. Now, if you were to buy roughly 1100 DPS one-handed weapon, and then you were to sell that to try and get gold that way, then your gold per million would cost you $2.88. Now, in terms of 1400 DPS two-handed weapons, we've had a drop in the gold price, down by 33%. That's a drop from 950,000 gold down to 633,000 on gold. Now, that's interesting when you compare that to the US dollar price in 1400 DPS two-handed weapons, which have actually appreciated by 2%, going up from $4.64 up to $4.75. That's interesting in the fact that the two are moving so differently, but what's most interesting is if you were spending US dollars to try and make gold, and you're buying 1400 weapon two-handed DPS weapons to try and achieve this goal, you would be buying them at $5.75, or sorry, $4.60 on average, and you'd be getting about 950k gold. That's effectively $5.75 per million gold. Now, if you tried to do the same thing, you would be paying $8.82 per million gold. So go do the numbers on what they are currently, and there's definitely going to be a significant arbitrage opportunity there, because you could be buying these 1400 DPS two-handed weapons for about 600,000 gold, and then selling them again on the real money auction house for $3 to $4, which is going to net you $2 to $3 after the fee, and you can then, use that to, heck, go and buy 1 million gold. No problem with that, and then you would have made 400k profit in terms of gold, and just rinse repeat. You can keep doing that as much as you like. So definitely some real opportunity out there for you guys. Do please give me some feedback down in the comments. I'm really looking for some other things that I can track that are consistently traded and easily trackable. So not too obscure stats, and something that is easily sorted in the auction house. So please, any suggestion you guys have got, pop them in the comments below. Also, any feedback, I'd really appreciate that. Otherwise, guys, if you want to see more of this stuff, please subscribe to the channel. I am trying to pump this stuff out every week. Unfortunately, real life obstacles do get in the way, and I don't get it out every week, but I'm going to do it every week whenever I can. Otherwise, if you like the video, hit like. If you dislike the video, then go and complain on Reddit, because that's what it appears to be for. Thanks very much for watching, and best of luck.